Oh, like I said earlier, 2525, perhaps a date that marks the beginning of a revolution. Incredible results up and down the country for Reform UK. The Labour Party, I think, should probably be in a cold sweat at this point, seeing the huge impact that they're having on former red seats. But perhaps the party that should be most concerned about these results is the Conservative Party, hemorrhaging councillors up and down the country, losing control of councils to the turquoise wave. Let's speak now to Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, former Conservative Party leader, of course. Sir Ian, thank you so much for coming on the programme. What's your initial reaction to this? Is it okay, keep calm, carry on, we can get this back? Or is this, blimey, this is worse than I expected?
First of all, it's not worse than I expected. I expected this to be a very bad night because, for two reasons. First of all, just looking at the figures, as John Curtis on the BBC has said endlessly, he said these were unprecedented victories back in 2020 when we just won the election. 2019, Labour was in free fall, and we won council seats in many places that we had never held them before. So we were always going to do badly tonight. The question really, though, was who was going to be which was going to be the party that was going to mop up some of this. I feel sorry for many of our councillors who fought hard, but, national events seem to have been against them. But the thing that really also got me, is not an excuse, but Labour has failed to really take advantage of that. You'd normally expect Labour to be mopping up here, and it's reform. And the key to reform represents, I think, at the moment, and is using this as the frustrations of the public who feel as though the last 10 years or so have been damaging for them. And we were empowered in that. COVID, the invasion of Ukraine, these things didn't help. They banged the economy badly. And our behaviour in office while we were there was, infuriated me, really. The constant case of removing one prime minister to find another, and the public don't like that sort of thing. They like constancy. They like a certain amount of strategic sense. And most of all, I said this earlier on, the problem for us is that we have to now recapture the idea that we are a competent government in waiting, not just a protest party. And that is the key. Who gets to hold that mantle in the next 3 to 4 years? It is our challenge for us to repeat that process. But the key thing is to remember that we were elected by the public who want us to do certain things. They want us to be there on the high streets with them, to recognise that shoplifting isn't a casual offence, it's a really nasty piece of work, damages their lives. They want to know why the police are busy running after people who say things occasionally on Twitter rather than chasing criminals who constantly wreck people's lives. They want to know why weren't we stopping the boats? Why did we not carry on through? Why didn't we manage to get the illegal migrants off immediately rather than having them delayed here, and all the back problems that existed with the legal challenges that took place? And they want to know exactly what we are planning. And when you deal with the present government, there's a huge fury growing about the cost of energy in the UK, which is spiralling through the roof, and yet we're bound on this religious zeal of a sort of a concept to get net zero done, even though we have very little effect now on the global emissions. Why aren't we putting the British public first on that? And we should have done that as well, much more strictly, rather than even beginning to pursue this net zero nonsense that we were after.
But this is the problem, really, isn't it, the Conservatives face? Because Reform UK have been sort of banging on about net zero and doing something about immigration for a long time. I mean, Nigel Farage, especially in all of his various guises over the years, one could argue that this has been sort of 25 years in the making to get him up to this point today. And people are very aware out there that the Conservative Party has been incredibly divided on these issues. It was the Conservative Party who celebrated the COP summit, who signed us up to various treaties on net zero, who presided over record levels of immigration into the country. And you have to wonder how many Conservative MPs that come from maybe your side of the party are looking at these results and are saying, we've just lost entire councils. Do you know what? The writing's on the wall. I'm going to move. I'm going to go to where the votes are. I'm going to go to the party that at least the public thinks are going to deliver on the things that my party's failed to deliver. Do you think there'll be people, going to knock on Nigel's door in Parliament and saying, listen, I don't think I'm really at home in the Conservative Party anymore?
Well, the challenge is really then for the Conservative leadership, Kemi, who I believe is wholly capable of doing this, to make the case for the sort of conservatism that made me join the Conservative Party, the sort of conservatism that Margaret Thatcher represented in many senses. That sense that the British public are the reason why we're here, and the British public's concerns, their patriotism, their sense of their country are what we should be sharing. And the trouble sometimes when you get into government for a long period of time, you start to think about you knowing more than the British public. That is the biggest mistake you ever make. So the challenge, and this is the point that I was making, yep, reform has done well. There's no point in beating around the bush. By the way, if I was a Labour politician, I'd be very worried as well. If you lose a seat as strongly as they held that last one, then that is a serious, serious blow above all the council results. The key thing is, what do we do about it? And the challenge is for us. I was asked a question on another interview a minute ago, and they said, oh, do you think that Nigel Farage could be Prime Minister? And my answer to that is very simple. That answer is down to us. It's not actually down to him. It's down to what the Conservative Party now does in reaction to these results. Whether we're able to get across the idea that we are genuinely that party that is always meant to represent the British public, their base interests, their understandings, their patriotism, their sense of country, or are we going to fail that and squabble amongst ourselves? And the key question is, we brought this on ourselves. We now have to challenge reform on all of these areas, which is our point. Kemi's beginning to do that now. I think she can do it properly. And we are a governing party, not a protest party, but we need to pick up these issues.
There might be people listening to this, Ian, including me, and may I just say, who sort of thinks, to me it sounds a bit like, and I've said this to you before, I think you're brilliant. I think you're the best leader the Conservative Party's had in a very long time. Your politics is absolutely on point. And someone like me is thinking, well, it's a bit like saying, the house next door is my dream house. It's furnished exactly as I want it to be. I can go and be in that house if I want to. But actually, I'm going to try and give my house yet another makeover to be identical to it. And one could argue that Reform UK needs people with your sort of calibre and your sort of experience. So why wouldn't you put ideology and belief and conviction above party and say, do you know what? Yes, I've been a devoted Conservative my whole life. They've failed to deliver. Actually, I should go and contribute to the movement, which is the democratic movement where the people are at right now, which is what the people are calling out for and backing.
The people, I think, aren't calling for a party. They're calling for issues, key things that really worry them. You talked about the house next door. The reality is, if you want the house next door, but the reality is, are you able to occupy it? The key thing is, you need to make sure you know what it is that you want. So here we have the problem. The problem is that Reform are articulating right now the fears and concerns and worries of the British public about their government and their governing class. That's what we're facing right now. Are we listening? Are we acting on it? And the truth is, if you were in France today, or in Germany, or in Italy particularly, where some of my family live, you'll be hearing exactly this same argument. You've got parties in those countries saying ruling governments have failed to deliver on migration. Migration is a huge issue across Europe. Italy gets more migrants on a daily basis than we do, and they really struggle. And they're clashing with the courts. They're all beginning to talk about the same thing, which is we have to find a way to get illegal migrants off our countries without ending up in front of the Court of Human Rights. They're wrong on this one, so that's what they're saying. So it's exactly the same here. I articulated my point about the challenge. The challenge to the Conservative Party after those years in government, particularly the last years where we got hit by COVID and by the war in Ukraine and the cost of living, all that stuff really damaged us internally. What we have to do is decide, are we prepared to take this challenge on and be the party that the public has been in the past capable of voting for and supporting, because we are about them, not about ourselves. We look too much like we cared about the jobs we had and the things that we had around us, the accoutrements, the titles, the nonsense that goes with politics, instead of which we should be talking about what are the things that really worry you. Why are you worried about going on your high street? Why are you worried about antisocial behavior? Why are you worried about illegal migration? Why are you worried about the cost of living? All this ridiculous net zero rush, which I have to tell you is literally bonkers.
It's impoverishing us. I can't say the words. It's impoverishing us. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, thank you ever so much for coming on the programme today.